Good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome to the Inside Out Show with myself, Garry Turner, and my co-host,
Lucy Bramley from Abundant Thinking. Hi, everyone.
And who have we got today but the amazing Vidhya from Codewave, who is, as I said already, amazing. Welcome to the show, Vidhya. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you, Garry and Lucy, for having me. I'm doing great. Hey, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us so late in your evening. Would you mind letting those that are joining us live or those that may watch this back on recording a little bit more about you and Codewave? Who are you and what are you up to in the world? It would be great to get going.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Vidhya, and I run a company called codewave.com. We are a 9-year-old company that is into design thinking-led digital transformation. Why did we start? We started to make design thinking everyone's job, and the world of corporate businesses has a lot of biases inbuilt in it. So we wanted to shatter a lot of stereotypes and myths and question the way businesses are running today, and also run a company which can somehow bridge the trust deficit that's there in the business world today. With our core principles like transparency, empathy, authenticity, self-management, and peer power. So that's been my core area of work.
Wow, what's coming up for you, Lucy? I've just got a million rabbit holes I want to go down.
Yeah, I guess my first question would be, what's your biggest challenge, Vidhya?
I think being a self-managed, self-sustained organization, the biggest challenge at the moment right now is scaling up the practices. Because it's so easy to scale up organizations with hierarchies, managers, and pyramids, and a lot of rules. But it's really not that easy or simple to scale up an organization that's self-managed and that has self-management in its DNA. So that's our challenge right now.
And how do you tackle it typically?
So we have created and evolved our own people practices. Our 360 peer-to-peer feedback culture is something we've created based on our learnings with people and how we've grown as an organization from a team of 4 to more than 100. So
Wow.
by constantly evolving the practices, I guess, and we're also working with Semko Style Institute. I think you've read about Ricardo Semler and Maverick. We're working with a lot of self-management enthusiasts, to help us establish those practices for scale.
Yeah, so you're really building that culture and kind of reinforcing it as often as you can. That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, we are kind of clear that we don't want to scale at any cost. We want to consciously scale, even if it is slow.
Because sometimes different ways of, sorry, Garry, sometimes different ways of working. I know from my time, 20 plus years in very big tech companies, so quite a different setup from yours, but obviously same sector, that you can be in a meeting and you can talk about something really interesting. Like we talked a lot when I was at IBM about design thinking, and I know that some of the development teams would use design thinking, and we tried to use it in the wider company, but it tended to be something that we did in little workshops, like once a quarter, and that's not going to work, is it? It's got to be part of your DNA.
Yeah, I think design thinking is a part of everyone's job, and it shouldn't be just the product guys or the design guys, participating in these kind of discussions, right? It's an everyday creative part of our jobs. I think we'll have to fundamentally re-look at the way teams are operating and how teams are formed.
I'd love to add into this as well, if I may. I'm really interested. When you made your introduction, you spoke about trying to bust the myths and trying to almost break the old system where, we start as these beautiful whole human beings, and then we sort of squeeze the humanity out of people through job roles, through oppressive or, exclusive practices, etc. I'm really curious, where did that energy come from for you and your husband when you created Codewave? Was there a personal experience that you had? Was there some other sort of guiding light for you?
I think personally it came from the dynamics me and Abhijith shared with each other. We sort of tried and decoded uh, what goes into a relationship of high trust. And what I realized was it is brutal transparency. You have to be brutally honest with yourself, with your partner. There's high levels of vulnerability. There's very high sense of belonging. There's high endurance, and all of these what makes a strong agile team as well, right? What makes teams trust each other and be very agile on the journey. So some of those core values are inspired from our own relationships. Yeah.
Look, you know what? I'm almost like, I don't get this very often, Vidhya, where I actually have to like stop in my tracks, go, oh my God, we see and hear so much about how do we make work more human, etc., etc. But how often do we really start with ourselves? And I
Yeah.
love what you've done. He's gone, actually, what does brutal transparent, what does a really good relationship look like at home? And how can we replicate that in work and not the other way around?
Exactly. I mean, in fact, I was introspecting a lot on how my relationship with my mother was uh, years back, and where I used to hide a lot of things from her, and how my life drastically changed when I had nothing to hide. When I had when my relationship was, it didn't have any strain. We were completely open, completely vulnerable. So that gave us a lot of strength to sort of sustain the highs and lows. And I think these are the things we also look for in teams, especially in highly agile environments. We want high adaptability. We want people to learn fast, evolve fast, but there's very low tolerance for failure. There's very low tolerance for vulnerabilities and stuff. So that's what I think needs change.
Mm-hmm. Just sort of, I guess, thinking about young people, how do you think our education systems set young people up to work in these kinds of environments? Vidhya, I don't really know much about how it is in India, but I know in the UK it feels quite different at school than from that kind of open agile environment. It's all about passing particular exams. It's all about quite a rigid curriculum.
Yeah. So in India, education needs a lot of radical level changes. It's still academic, it's all theoretical. There's a lot of focus on scoring marks and cracking competitive examinations. But I think it's got to be experiential learning. Leadership development has to start quite early in the schools. Very recently, the Indian Central Board of Secondary Education, they've added design thinking as part of the curriculum. But again, I think all of this design thinking, AI, or any cognitive skill has to start a lot earlier. Uh, so yeah, a radical revolution is required in education.
Mm.
It's got me thinking, Lucy, and is that the challenges are so universal. It shows you this old system, the old system that I think we would all agree is dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're finding each other using technology across the world, seemingly so different, yet we're realizing, the issue with transparency, or the lack of trust, the lack of transparency, the lack of vulnerability, they truly are connected human traits. Like, it goes across culture, it goes across language. And I just think there's something really beautiful, Vidhya, in how you're role modeling through your business. You're not just offering consultancy and trying to offer, you're really trying to help people embody that new way of being, which I think is quite rare, in my opinion anyway, Lucy. I don't know about what you've experienced in terms of, rather than just being a technical sale, there's this embodied sort of sale. Here's a product, but we're embodying the work, not just selling you a product. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That deep belief and that very personal, familial angle. And I'm wondering, if the secret sauce is really what you said, Vidhya, about it starting at home, you know, because it's the two of you and it's your business, and you had these very difficult conversations about, you know, how it was going to run and what it was going to stand for. And kudos to you. You know, I was thinking of all the things that I don't raise with my husband, you know, and we've been together for 16 years, you know, and I still pussyfoot around with some things, and it's kind of, yeah, you need to be more brave, you need to get yourself out, you know.
Yeah, and I'm really happy there are a lot of change makers like you, and you know, there are a lot of people doing great work that keeps me going, really. And it's a very fundamental, radical shift across the globe. So we need a lot more people to work on it. It's not just enough just one company or, you know, a few companies worry about it.
I'm really curious when you think about the sort of the customer relationships that you have today. How is the mindset of, let's say you go to a new client, you're pitching for a new piece of business, is that sort of business owner or senior leader, how ready are they for this offering that you have? And the second question, follow-up question, do you walk away from business if those senior leaders aren't even ready? Just really interested how how does that work for you as a business?
It works really well because our customers are mostly new product owners, new product development teams, or innovation heads, or people who are going to revamp their or modernize their existing products, or completely build a new product altogether for their businesses. So they expect that creative energy, they expect entrepreneurial energy, they expect everyone to contribute, drive meetings. So that is something we love doing. And I think that's what customers love about our teams. And that also helps us create a lot of value. I personally believe it's the personal ingenuity of the individual that sort of adds value to conversations, and we happen to have a culture that supports that. So that way it's worked. And where it doesn't work, probably I would say where we're not a good match on values. um, so that's where we say, hey, probably not our team, maybe you know, because we have our certain core values like transparency and, you know, ideas coming from anywhere, and this free flow of influence. And so if there are conflicts at a values level, it starts affecting the outcomes. So that's where we then say probably not a great match.
What's your proudest piece of work that the company's done? The thing that you think, wow, you know, I'm really glad that we worked on that project.
I think it was one of our earliest applications. It was a two-wheeler application where Garry could give Lucy a ride and earn for it. It's a peer-to-peer uh, bike sharing application where you could just use your pillion seat and earn for it, you know. And that was one of our fun projects what we designed, and the product beautifully scaled to 15 cities, and it became a success as well. It was very similar to Uber for two-wheelers. We're proud of,
Cool.
many such products like that, which we've enabled through technology.
That's so cool. Simple ideas, great for the environment. But yeah, you think, oh, why didn't somebody think of that already?
Yeah.
But they hadn't. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
By the way, brilliant question, Lucy. I'm like, it's so the thing I'm going to now with my systems, like as in social big systems, is just like, I'm really grateful to you and your husband and all of your team, Vidhya, honestly, for also breaking the patriarchal mindset. Because, you know, let's be honest, right? India is part of the old colonies, right? It's part of the old Commonwealth. Like, so for you to have the courage to say, we want to stand on our own with respect to the past, but we know that we don't need to just conform to those old ways of being. That's a really, really powerful message, I think.
I was thinking about the people that were bike sharing, and that it might have started new friendships, you know, because when they met, you know, sharing a bike, and all these, like, again, like systems, like you say, you sort of seeing all these people, these kind of bubbles of people that didn't know each other before, and now they might be friends. That's like really lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So cool.
One of the things that I noticed in tech, and companies that I work for IBM, and then I work for Microsoft, and they both did a lot of work really to try and get more women into the workplace, because it was a real problem, gender imbalance in the tech sector. And it starts at school. You know, I go into schools and talk to young people about careers generally, but obviously tech is what I know, so, you know, we tend to spend a bit of time there. And I see from a really early age that girls just get put off it. Do you find is a similar thing in India? And you know, how do you counteract it, or is it different?
Yeah, it is. I think the number of female workers into tech is relatively a small number. And in Codewave, we've tried to make sure that percent is around 25 to 30. We're trying to make sure 1 in every 3-4 people is a woman. We're trying to balance that in some way. But I think it's still a large issue at a large scale in the nation today. I think I so badly want a lot of women leaders in business, and I so badly need them to be running this organization and taking it forward. But still, I think it has to be a fundamental shift, how women see their lives, how they see their careers, you know, and what kind of opportunities they say yes to. It's both ways. It's also women who need to sort of step up.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful. Like there's something very serene about you, Vidhya. Like we could just sit here and sort of say nothing for like 10 minutes, and it would just be lovely. That's real. I mean that really, really sincerely, because this whole energy thing, I'm finding, certainly there's a lot of space I'm in. We're really moving away from this time management and process management.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually like, what gives us energy? What takes it away? How do we contribute in a way that is energetically aligned and not just about the outcome? Sort of trusting the process, or trusting the emergence, trusting the, you know, that sort of unknowing, that vulnerability again, right? How do we make steps without knowing what's coming next?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a question here for you, if you don't mind, Vidhya. Thanks for joining us. Code Poet, what a wonderful name. What keeps your belief system unshakable? What a beautiful question, and thanks for joining us.
It's a profound question. So, I mean, everything gets tested in life, I believe. And on this journey of 8-9 years, even my most core principles, what I held so close to my heart, got tested, and my beliefs got questioned, challenged. And but there's still something about you know, human relationships of trust. And you know, there's this curiosity in every individual that wants to be bigger than themselves. They want to be selfless for no reason. They want to give more. They want to be altruistic, and there's no reason behind it. If you know, that's what inspires me. And even when I'm in the lowest of my state of being, I still get inspired by that, and I say, okay, what's my reason not to show up and continue doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, I think basically we need more love in the world. That you know, what we found over the last few years with a lot of the things that have been going on, you know, politically in lots of different nations, probably since the credit crunch, you know, 2008, it's really escalated it. It's people, there's a lot of hate, isn't there? You know, there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of blame. And Garry and I were having a conversation last week where he was saying, you know, you're on the left or you're on the right. You know, you kind of, you're a vegetarian or you're a meat eater, you know, and actually in reality, we're all shades of grey. We're all, you know, things in between,
Yeah.
and we can change our minds. You know, that's something that, you know, we're uniquely positioned to do as human beings, because of our cognitive material that we've got up there. But yeah, it feels like there's just not enough love and trust in the world. And, you know, going back to what Garry said, you're a very calm presence. You know, I feel like I don't have to pretend to be something in front of you, and that it would be really nice working for you, working in an organization with you. And that's what we need more of, isn't it? Is that love and trust and openness.
Yeah.
I need to pop back, Vidhya, because like what I'm seeing again, this embodiment piece for me, which is what I love about you and your work. How many times, particularly in Europe, I can speak from Europe because I'm in this area. You've got transparency emboldened behind your head as you do this live conversation with us. The number of times that the behavior, the energy we experience in a workplace that is completely the opposite to whatever's on that wall. And I think anybody that watches this back or is watching us live, I just want to commend you and offer my thanks and appreciation for how you're modeling that transparency in this very moment, because it's very easy to put something on the wall, isn't it? It's far, you've got to stay intentionally conscious to actually role model it.
Yeah, agree. It can't be on the walls. It has to be in your everyday practice. And I think leaders have a great role to play here. Leaders have to lead by example. They have to be transparent first, and set the culture, I guess.
I'm wondering, Lucy, for you, when you was at like Microsoft, for example, like what was that like for you? And again, I don't want to, it's not just about Microsoft, but generally your lived experience in the corporate workspace. How easy was it to find trust, to, you know, harness or protect trust? I'm just wondering what trust, how it popped up for you when you was in corporate life.
I think what it took me a while to figure out when I was there, probably took me a couple of years to figure it out, was that if you subscribed to the values and the goals of the company, then you would do well. And if you wanted to try different approaches, or you maybe disagreed with some of the dominant narrative, it didn't necessarily end well for you. and that surprised me at a company like Microsoft, which, you know, is there's got a lot to say about culture and about trust. But I felt safer. That's a strong word to use, isn't it, on a Monday afternoon? I felt safer at IBM. I felt more able to say exactly what I thought, at a company that was very old, you know, and, you know, it's like over 110 years old now, IBM, but, you know, led the way in a lot of respects in terms of inclusion and free thinking and change and trust. So I feel like there were different layers, you know, and it kind of depended whether you were towing the line or not. But that could be very personal to me, you know, other people might not feel the same. And also it could have had something to do with my life stage, you know, because I've kind of, as I've got into my 50s, I know I've changed in terms of what I want to do, what I enjoy spending my time doing, my energy level. And I was a bit worried that there might be a bit of a sausage machine mentality at some companies, where you've got to have the energy of a 23-year-old, and you've got to not have any commitments at home, you know, and you've got to be able to thrive on 5 hours sleep. So it's probably a bigger answer than you were hoping for, Garry, but it's a big question, I think.
Yeah, but you know, what I'm taking though from both of your responses, and I totally feel this myself, it is this, we're moving into this, and it comes back to everything we've discussed so far for me, a really personalized approach, not only to our own lives, but to work. And it's actually, you know, how do you truly have enough, you know, the job's got to get done. We know that, you know, with you at Codewave, where it's me at my company, you know, there is a job that needs to be done. But I think we'd probably all agree, but feel free to challenge or build on this, that the actual core role, the function that needs to be done, is probably 20% of the role. How you get it done could be a myriad of different ways with different people, different setups. But what we seem to have is this legacy of the role is 85%, and maybe there's 10% of you to show up as a human. And it's like, actually, no, why don't we flip that? And I'm thinking, and I'd love your comments on this video, like, how does that play into your design as to how you self-organize, the practices, the agreements? Is that sort of how it works? There's this sort of core role to be done, and the rest is you organize amongst yourselves how to get it done. Maybe you can give us an example of, a real life example of how you set one of these practices up. It'd be really interesting.
Sure. We do have job descriptions to give people clarity of who they would be, what roles they'll play at Codewave. But roles really are very dynamic here. It's like projects are like playing a football match, right? You pick up the role because the ball has come to you and you have to decide what to do with it. There are a lot of local decisions happening on a day-to-day basis within the teams. So I would say roles are fluid. Like there is a business analyst, there is a designer, there is a developer, there is a tester. But beyond their role boundaries, they also sort of jump into a struggling area. Let's say a developer is curious about how the UX guy thinks about design. And so he'll jump into that, sort of discuss and have conversations and shape the designs. The same case with the testers. The testers would pair up with coders and start writing scripts. So I think Agile, Agile has done a lot of good, especially in software. Because we're no longer like working with fixed or very constraining role definitions. Agile allows you to be experimental. It supports you to have a self-organizing team, and it's very outcome focused. So yeah.
I love that analogy of the football team. That's really helpful. Like, and it also makes me think, Lucy, about improv. You look at go see a comedian, and like, okay, they might have a bit of a script, but generally when they interact with the audience, it's like, okay, give me this, give me this, give me this, and then they make a story. It's a very similar thing, and I think there's a freedom in improvisation, but again, comes back to that vulnerability point, right? So to let go of control and to navigate the unknown iteratively, personally and as a team, is a quite big step for some people. But the freedom on the other side, I believe, is huge. But walking people over that metaphorical bridge is sort of where we're at, I think.
How do you get them there safely? Because they might not be used to it, in their family background or where they've worked before or their education. It needs guidance, doesn't it?
And it takes a lot of emotional exposure. You have to be your real selves, and it's discomforting to sometimes face the moment of truth and be vulnerable in front of a lot of people and ask for help. But I think all of this makes you a better human being, and I think it creates a community that positively moves us forward.
I can't believe it.
People want to help, don't they? That's the thing, I think there's the, on the one side, sometimes you have the fear of, I don't want to say I don't know, I don't want to look like, like the person that doesn't know. But then you have people who have a lot of knowledge and never get asked to share it. So actually, if you say I don't know how to do that, then you're being brave, but you're also giving yourself an opportunity to learn and giving somebody else an opportunity to share.
Yeah. So if you're going to incentivize narcissism and high IQ but low EQ, and if you're going to tolerate that or reward it, it's going to have consequences. So I think designing an incentive scheme where you're rewarding greater social behaviors, be it humility, openness, vulnerability, I think it comes down to that. So it can hold that culture and sustain it.
When you go, I think that's half an hour flow state. Like that's crazy. Like I feel like you've just started this on another beautiful exploration video, and I think we might have to get you back on if you're open to it at some point, because that last point is somewhere I'd love to spend a bit more time, is around actually that measurement piece, because we are, you still need to track. I don't like to use measure, but like track progress versus agreed, KPIs or whatever, or, OKRs or whatever you might want to call them. But I love that idea. Could you imagine, instead of return on investment, return on vulnerability as a measure.
Yeah.
Or something. Do you know what I mean? Like it just how could that flip the whole workplace paradigm?
I'm going to note that down now, right now. Return on vulnerability.
But it's really intriguing, isn't it? Just to think, because your point inspired that in me. Vidhya is around you get what you measure generally.
Yeah.
And what if we flipped the measure to, we're going to give you a bigger bonus, Lucy, the more you show how truly human you are, and the more interactions that you have. You can almost gamify it, can't you?
Yeah.
Like who's actually had the most sort of, how many times has Lucy been vulnerable? We're not on about like vulnerability vomit, but just, how have you helped drive our business through connection by being vulnerable? Humility, trust. Like you've got me really excited. Like you totally seeded that in me, Vidhya.
Yeah.
Thank you.
God. Right, final words, Lucy, and then we'll come to Vidhya at the end. So what are you taking away, been reminded of, Lucy, or inspired by from this wonderful exploration?
I'm very inspired by the strength and the humility in Vidhya's leadership, and very much, if I still wanted to work in tech, would love to work for Vidhya and in her company, in their UK offshoot, which they probably don't have at the moment. But it's just been a wonderful conversation, and it's really made me think there's a lot of hope with people like you and companies that you're building, to be able to create this humility, because whether we like it or not, tech is the future. Every business is going to be a tech business, and so what we need is for the humility in tech, vulnerability in tech. So
thank you, Garry and Lucy. I totally appreciate the opportunity, and I feel grateful because conversations like these are really heartwarming, and I'm so glad to see a lot of change makers like you. And making the planet more conscious.
Well, likewise, and I think you gave me that beautiful gem for me personally a moment ago, and I think the other thing for me is to be able to understand and experience the importance of connecting to yourself at home and how that manifests into your business. That is not an angle I expected so clearly today. It's obvious to me on the one hand, because change is an inside job, without a doubt, generally. But the beauty in how it's blown me away, Lucy. Like just that absolute clarity, a rich, totally transparent relationship at home allows us to bring that to the workplace, not the other way, not the retrofit that I think a lot of this Be More Human at Work is about. We're not doing the inner work at home. We're trying to be human at work, but we're not necessarily doing the inner work at home. And that's what
a lot of people compartmentalize, don't they, and try and keep the systems separate. But I don't think that's so easy nowadays. We're working more hours than ever.
Yeah.
So true. Last word to you, Vidhya, before we I just want to say thanks for everyone for joining us, and also in particular, thank you, Code Poet again. His brilliant question. I believe he identifies as he. I hope that's correct. What keeps her belief system unshakable? If you want to find out the answer and you've just joined us, you need to go back and have a look. But please do follow Vidhya's work, and please, the last word to you, Vidhya. What maybe have you taken away, reflected upon, or been reminded of through our exploration today?
I think my greatest takeaway is scale consciously. You don't have to run after money, fame, and material stuff. Yes, of course, that happens as a consequence in business. But scale consciously.
Boop, mic drop.
Wonderful.
What a great way to finish. Thank you, Vidhya. Thank you, Lucy. Thanks everyone for joining us, and have a good evening, morning, and afternoon. Take care.